Why did you stop teaching face-to-face classes, and what's the difference between your previous face-to-face classes and your current online IELTS classes? So I specialize in IELTS preparation for over 10 years. I've taught face-to-face one-to-one classes, I've taught face-to-face group classes, and also I've taught online classes during this time. I've helped 450 plus of my students pass the IELTS exam, and this is my conclusion after teaching for 10 plus years, right? My online classes can help even more people pass their IELTS exam because of 6 reasons, and I'm going to talk about them really soon, okay? But let's be honest first, you don't go to an IELTS class to make friends. The IELTS class isn't a social club, okay? If you want to make friends, then going to a face-to-face class is much better, okay, than going and then taking the online classes. But for me, and I think for you, it's all about passing your IELTS exam. And if you agree with me that it's all about passing your IELTS exam, then hear what I have to say. Right? I'm going to tell you the 6 reasons why I stopped teaching face-to-face classes and started teaching online classes. And actually, this I thought about this for a long time, right? And also, I'm going to tell you why I believe my online IELTS classes will help more people pass their IELTS exam than any face-to-face class, be it my previous one or any other face-to-face class out there. And when I say that my online classes can help more people pass their IELTS exam than my previous face-to-face class, please remember what my previous face-to-face class has already achieved. Okay, I've already gotten 450 plus of my students who have passed the IELTS exam. These are the places you can go to, the web pages you can go to check out all their testimonials, their WhatsApp messages when they pass. I've helped many people, especially pass their writing. These are testimonials from people who have passed their IELTS writing after having failed it at least once previously before taking my IELTS classes. Now, so I'm going to talk about these 6 reasons, and these are actually very important reasons. Like I said, it took me a bit of time to decide to stop teaching face-to-face and to go to teach online classes. And I know more people prefer face-to-face classes, and I know the reasons for this, and I'm going to address that. And actually, a lot of the reasons why people prefer face-to-face class actually is not very good. So I'm going to talk about that. So firstly, with online classes, students will have a better study mindset. Okay, this is probably the most underestimated benefit of taking online classes versus face-to-face classes. So listen carefully, because what I'm going to say goes contrary to conventional wisdom. Many people will believe that face-to-face classes will result in better success than if they were to study online. That's the conventional wisdom. But after having taught 10 years, I've taught online classes and I've also taught face-to-face classes. And my 10 years plus experience tells me a totally different story from what conventional wisdom says. My conclusion is that overall online class students have a very different and much better study mindset, which results in more success for them. So let me say this very clearly. A person's mindset is everything. Okay, a person's mindset is one of the most underestimated factors in the success of any endeavor. And I've discovered that face-to-face classes do not encourage as healthy a studying mindset as online classes do. If you start with a mindset that I'm going to attend face-to-face classes as that's going to help me discipline myself to study by forcing me to attend physical classes, I want to have the discipline of focus if there's online classes. If this is your mindset, you've already lost more than half the battle, as you've started with the wrong mindset. So a lot of people have this mindset. That's why they prefer face-to-face classes. The mindset is that I need face-to-face classes to discipline or motivate or force me to study in class. I paid so much for face-to-face classes that I'm going to prioritize face-to-face teachings over anything outside of it, and even over the homework that they're given. Okay, anyway, I don't have much motivation to do anything outside of class because I'm paying for the fact that I'm forced to go to class and I'm forced to study and sit in front of the teacher and do my work because I don't have discipline outside of class. Now, if you have this mindset, right, then the result is that the student prioritizes face-to-face class attendance and is too lazy and unmotivated to do their homework and doesn't consider homework as important as attending face-to-face classes. That is basically what I've experienced. I've taught many people throughout the last 5 to 10 years in big classes, and I see that many students don't do their homework because they're too busy And because they think face-to-face classes, everything that is important is taught in the face-to-face class. They're paying so much for the face-to-face class. They attend the physical classes. They focus. They prioritize the physical classes over everything else. All right. The homework, they don't really do so much homework. That's the wrong mindset, right? And that's why many people don't do well. The correct mindset is this: if you take online classes, your mindset is, I don't need face-to-face classes to discipline or motivate me to work hard to pass my IELTS. I don't attend face-to-face classes, so to me there's no prioritizing class teachings over homework. Everything in my online class is important. I'm going to do it all. And that's the reason why I tell you upfront, in my online classes, there are 35 plus hours videos, 400 plus pages of notes. There's no division and there's no prioritizing between this teaching or that teaching. That is all there for you. I want you to get into the mindset that if you want to pass, if you want to be like many of my students who pass, that's what you have to do. All right? You're not just going to attend 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours face-to-face classes, don't do your homework and think that that's going to help you to pass the exam. Right? Most people actually fail their exam many times. So, and the reason is that they have this wrong mindset. All right? So with an online class, the student starts with the correct motivation and is determined to do everything necessary. No prioritizing one thing over another to pass IELTS. So that's very important. Number 2, more consistent study routine. So if you are going to a face-to-face class, the study routine is always dependent on timing and the attendance of the face-to-face classes, and thus you can't study at your own pace. You can't study a bit slower, you can't study a bit faster, depending on whether you're a weaker or stronger student, right? Why? Because you've got to wait for the first face-to-face class to start before the students start studying. So maybe if you register for a face-to-face class, it may start in 1 week's time, it may start in 2 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, 2 months' time, whatever it may be. So you're just waiting, okay? And that's really a waste of time. If student has a lot of time, can't study, he or she won't be able to study in advance, as he wants to follow the class and wait for the teaching in the next class. So even after you've attended your first class, then maybe the second class is 1 week's time or 2 weeks' time, whatever it may be. Then you just have to wait. All right. If a class is missed and if a makeup is given in a few weeks' time, precious time is wasted that could be used to study. So you miss a class for whatever reasons, and I'm going to talk about that later on, because a lot of people miss a lot of classes because there's so many excuses and so many reasons for people to miss classes, right? But if you miss a class and if a makeup is given for free, okay, some face-to-face classes, they don't offer makeups for free. If you miss a class, then that's just too bad for you. But if they offer makeup for free, they got to wait for a few weeks' time or a few months' time for that class to be, for you to take that class again. Again, that's time wasted. If a makeup class is not given, then of course the student just misses that teaching and wastes the money. All right. Online class, very different study routine. The study routine is not dependent on the timing and attendance of face-to-face classes, and thus the student can study at his or her own pace, faster or slower. But I'm here talking about especially faster, because I want you to get into the mindset. I want my students to get into the mindset that you should be studying as much as possible. If you want to pass your IELTS exam and not fail over and over again, like 60 to 80% of students who fail the first time they take the IELTS exam, and even many fail subsequent times, many times after taking the IELTS exam. Part of the reason, there are many reasons, and I'm going to talk about that. I talk about them in my other teachings and my other FAQs, but one of the reasons is that they don't study hard enough because they're dependent on face-to-face class, the time schedule, and they just have to wait for the class, right? But for an online class, you can study at your own pace. Firstly, you can start studying immediately without waiting for the first face-to-face class, and every day can be used to improve, as online teachings can be accessed anytime and anywhere. If you want to study 5 hours today, you got a public holiday, or you just have your work off, or you just have some free time, you just feel like studying 5 hours, you can do so with your online class. With your face-to-face class, it's dependent on the class schedule. So you can plan accordingly and plan ahead to study as often as possible without waiting for any face-to-face classes. You won't miss any class teaching, of course, because there's no physical class to miss, because it's all completely online and recorded. Okay, so the online class actually encourages a good study routine, which is also very important. This is something I've seen over and over again. For face-to-face class students, there are constant disruptions to their IELTS preparation schedule, as they miss attending face-to-face classes due to uncontrollable factors. It's not their fault. like last minute work schedule changes by their boss, unplanned emergencies, something happened to your child, or you have a baby, COVID situation, family back in the hometown has some problems, you got to address accidents here and there, weather, public transportation issues, being too tired from work to attend face-to-face classes. So all these are the factors that cause many people to miss their classes. All of the above affect face-to-face class students much more than online class students. As for online class students, any preparation time missed can immediately be made up soon after, because they can study online anytime and anywhere. So there's less disruption to preparation schedule for online class students. If, for example, an online class student, cannot plan to do, some study today, but because of some emergency cannot, then they can just do it the next day. Whereas if you miss a class for the face-to-face class, you're not just going to make it up the next day. It may be weeks after, or you may not even get a free makeup, right? However, for face-to-face classes, for face-to-face class students, either, like I said, the free makeup class may be in a few weeks' time or a few months' time, and that's going to disrupt their preparation schedule and waste their precious time as they wait for that class, or they're not given a free makeup class, and so they just miss the teaching completely and waste their money, right? The result of these constant disruptions in schedule due to their IELTS preparation studying being dependent on attending a face-to-face class, the result of all this is that many face-to-face class students lose momentum, enthusiasm, and motivation. Very, very real. You start to lose momentum and enthusiasm after, some time always missing classes, always, missing your planned study schedule. And this prevents them from keeping to their initial IELTS preparation commitment. So the commitment you had before is going to be disrupted. You're going to feel discouraged. Consistency in IELTS preparation is important. It helps you keep the momentum and keep motivated. Too much disruption in your plans will throw your plans into disarray and affect your motivation, right? It's actually an open secret among schools that most face-to-face class students actually don't attend all the classes they pay for. I've taught face-to-face for many years. I can tell you many of my students, very few actually in terms of percentage-wise, actually go for all the classes. And that's because there's so many disruptions, so many unplanned, uncontrollable disruptions, and the loss of momentum, the discouragement when they, when their plans are thrown into disarray and their schedule is not as planned, they get discouraged. And, that is just something that just happens over and over again, not just in my class, every single person's class. No matter how good your teaching is, you will face this, because it's not just dependent on how good your teaching is. It's dependent on the situation, the life situation of the student. Okay, so as their motivation and enthusiasm fade after a while due to constant disruptions, this isn't just for IELTS preparation classes, but for any class or training. Okay, this is just human psychology. So of course, online class students aren't affected by disruption so much, as they can access the class materials anywhere and anytime, and are not dependent on attending a physical face-to-face class that comes with all the potential disruptions and delays. So the moral of the story is this: revolving your IELTS preparation around attending face-to-face classes can be a precarious situation, a dangerous situation, because of how easy it is for uncontrollable factors to disrupt and delay your preparation schedule, and this ultimately causes you to lose momentum and enthusiasm. That's one of the main reasons why I believe that online class students, because of the way the online class is structured, generally have a superior study mindset and more consistent study routines, which will result in a higher chance of success. Okay? Now, next, better student support. So a huge misconception by students is that there will be better support and personal attention by the teacher in a face-to-face class. They think that if you don't understand something or can't follow something, the teacher will slow down and explain everything for them. Okay, but even in a face-to-face class, the teacher can't give personal attention to everyone, as there are many students, and in reality, actually most students are too shy, especially you're attending a class and speaking a language that's not your first language, because English is not the first language for most students. They're actually too shy to speak up during the classes, to ask questions, especially the weaker ones. And the teacher also can't cater just to one student, slow down the class just for one student, can't cater to one student who has problems following, as then the rest will not be happy. So I've taught face-to-face classes for many years, and most of the time students don't ask many questions in a face-to-face class, especially since English is their second language and they're not so confident. right? Now, most of the questions by my students, even during my face-to-face class time, are direct to me through WhatsApp. I've always given my WhatsApp number to my students. They can even WhatsApp me after they complete their classes. So I've been giving my WhatsApp number to my students for the past 10 years. Okay, I don't know any other teacher that actually does that. And they can always ask me questions, and that's actually where most of their questions come from, not during the face-to-face class. Why not during the face-to-face class? Because they have not had time to absorb everything. They go back, they study again the materials that I teach, and then they may have questions as they study further, right? It's not just during the class that you will ask questions. Very few people, trust me, very few people ask questions during the class. So my online class will provide better support because my students will, of course, still get my WhatsApp number. And for this new online classes, they'll also be able to ask me questions during the live Zoom classes, where time will be given specially to answer any questions by students. So the live Zoom class is basically for question and answers and some activities. The main teachings is already up there, the 35 plus hours of video teachings of 400 plus pages of notes, right? So ultimately, this support given to my students through my online classes would be so much better. And people are going to ask questions. They can still ask through Zoom. They can ask through WhatsApp. And they will be able to absorb the teaching better, which I'm going to talk about later on. Once you absorb the teaching better, understand the teaching better, because you can play the recording over and over again, then they have more questions. Now, the fourth thing is that there's going to be more and better teaching materials. So this is already given to my online class students, and this is not given to my face-to-face class students, right? So this is just especially for the launch of my new online classes. And so this is what they get. Now, 2022 onwards, if you have gone through a video about my online class teachings, all right, what I said is that there will be new materials added for my students, and it's going to be free, all right? Right now, I don't have level 4. I don't have level 5 yet of the templates. I'm creating them, and it will be given to my students for free, right? So there's much more materials that will be given to my students than my face-to-face classes. So more materials and better quality materials. As I mentioned this during the explanation of my class teachings in one of the videos, and in my mastermind, my master class, new teachings will be added regularly. So such teachings like this, I give to my masterclass students, and please attend the masterclass if you have not. The where I go through preparation for the IELTS exam, the 4 components, grammar, vocabulary, and what's in my online classes, etc. But so these are teachings that are added regularly, okay? And they're better teachings than what my face-to-face class students actually had. So my online classes contain newer and much better teaching materials as I've just updated and improved the teaching syllabus and materials for the online classes, and I'm continuously improving and adding better and better IELTS materials every few weeks. The main reason why I can keep coming up with better and more effective IELTS materials for my students is that I'm offering my online IELTS classes, and this allows me to spend more time creating better materials. So actually that's one of the reasons also, because I know I'm going through all the reasons why I think that the online IELTS class will be more effective, but also as I teach online, I have fewer things to worry about in terms of logistics, renting a classroom, which it takes a lot of time and it gives me a lot of headaches, right? And the time that I have available, because I don't have to get myself involved in all these logistics, will be spent more on creating better and better materials, because I have so many materials in my mind that I want to create. Next, very important, better absorption of teachings. So my teachings and my materials will definitely challenge you. Okay, they're intensive, they're detailed, they're unique, they're challenging, and they're not catered for the lowest common denominator, meaning the lowest and the easiest levels, but they aim to aim at pushing you to improve and helping you pass the IELTS exam. My teachings have always been very challenging, even during my face-to-face class time. Okay, they're not like normal classes because I don't use normal textbooks. I use my own materials. You see, I don't want to compromise on the quality and standards of my teaching in order to appease weaker students. I want such students to become better. So I'm not catering to the weaker students. Weaker students need to be challenged to improve if they want to really pass the exam. Because of the high quality of my materials, there will be students who will find my teachings really challenging. And when I was teaching face-to-face, some students couldn't follow my lessons completely. I still get complaints now and then. You know, your materials are very challenging. They are very difficult because I'm giving them a lot of really good materials. So right now, I don't have to worry so much about that. Okay? Because with online classes, they can go through the recordings over and over again. They just need to go through it the second time and the third time and really absorb it. Okay, so this is one reason why putting my teachings in an online format is so helpful. You'll be able to better absorb all the challenging teachings. That's why even though it's 35 hours of video teachings, 400 pages of notes, you are going to spend longer than 35 hours because you may be watching the video more than once and you'll be using the materials and studying it. It may take a long time. All right? If some of the teachings are too challenging to understand, if you go through the teaching videos just once, you can play it again, over and over again. That's the beauty of an online class. Until you understand it completely. In a face-to-face class, you wouldn't be able to do that. And you can learn at your own pace. If you're a weaker student, you can go slower. And if you are a stronger student, you can go faster. Some of my materials, not every single moment of my materials of my teaching will be difficult. All right, some are not so difficult. Some are very challenging. So you can go at your own pace. For the difficult materials, you can replay the video, go through the documents and the PDFs. Take your time. For the easier teachings, you can go through it faster. You don't have to play it more than once. Okay. So in a face-to-face class, you can't study at your own pace. You wouldn't be able to do that. The result is better absorption. All right, you can replay the main teachings. You can even replay the Zoom. Listen to other people's questions and my answers. And that will result in better absorption into your mind of the teachings in an online format compared to a face-to-face class. And lastly, of course, it's cheaper. Right? What I used to charge for my face-to-face class students is $600, $500, then $600. And that's because rent. If you go to any face-to-face class, not just my class, but other classes too, I guarantee you, a lot of the money that you're paying for the class is going to rent. Singapore is the second most expensive in the world for rent, all kinds of rent, be it residential or commercial rent. Okay? That's why a lot of the money you're going to pay is going to the rent. That's why to me it's crazy. You spend thousands of dollars or 500, 1,000, thousands of dollars to attend a class or training, but it's really going to rent. It's not going to really good teachings or whatever. Most of it is really going to rent, right? So it's no longer $600. It's actually $400 for the normal price. But right now, for my online class, is $250. This is only for the launch, okay, the discounted launch price for my online classes. So it's cheaper than my face-to-face class. It's cheaper than any face-to-face class. It's probably even cheaper than any online class, all right, of such value. So these are the reasons why I decided to stop teaching face-to-face classes, because ultimately my students are going to perform better in my online classes than my face-to-face classes. Why? Because they'll have a better study mindset. They'll have more consistent study routines. There will be better student support for them, the Zoom and the WhatsApp. There'll be better and more teaching and materials, regular new materials given to them for free. There'll be better absorption of teachings by my students because they're able to replay the recording over and over again and study at their own pace. And because they're able to study at their own pace and absorb everything, then they'll ask more questions, and then the support will always be there, and then they'll learn even more. And lastly, it was cheaper. So that's the reason why I stopped teaching my face-to-face classes. That's why I believe if you attend my online classes, you will learn more and have a better chance of passing the IELTS exam than you would with any face-to-face classes. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. So what's my experience with teaching IELTS? So let me go through a bit about my experience. Firstly, I was born in Singapore, but I've lived and studied and worked in 3 different countries, Australia in 3 different cities. Brisbane when I was in primary school, Perth about 15 years ago, Sydney for my university. I've also studied in Canada and lived in Canada and in Colombia, which is in South America. I have a University of Cambridge CELTA, which is the most reputable and credible ESL teaching qualification in the world. I've taught English IELTS in other schools in Colombia, in Australia, in China, in Singapore. So I taught IELTS in English and IELTS in other schools in Singapore. And then from 2012, around 2012 or slightly earlier onwards, I started to specialize only in IELTS preparation. I started and taught in my own school. So let me tell you a bit more about myself from this. Firstly, I'm a 10-year IELTS specialist. Like I showed you just now, I've been teaching and specializing only in IELTS. I don't teach other kinds of English generally. Okay, my focus is on IELTS. So all my students are IELTS students. I have 450 plus student testimonials and passes on my website. You can see all the WhatsApp messages. I'm a partner of IDP. IDP is a co-owner of IELTS. IELTS, the organization IELTS is owned by IDP, which is an Australian organization, British Council, and also University of Cambridge. 3 organizations own the IELTS organization. I'm a partner of IDP, and I used to teach for them. I don't teach for them now, but I used to teach for them before. I am a recommended IELTS teacher for many immigration agencies. They send their clients to me, and also many ESL teachers who do not teach IELTS, they will send their students to me. And I've also trained ESL teachers to teach IELTS. So I have taught IELTS since 2012, but these are pictures from 2015 to 2022, right? So I've actually taught in big classes for the last 7-8 years or so. These are my student testimonials. You can go to this webpage. If you want to read all of it, I recommend that you read them all, because if you are coming to my classes, you want to know about what I teach and whether my classes are the right classes for you, go and read what students have said. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. So some students say attending a face-to-face class is better as I'll be more disciplined and focused, right? So many people have the misconception that attending a face-to-face class will make them more disciplined to attend the class and will force them to study in class. But from my 10 plus years of teaching IELTS face-to-face, here's the reality. Most people do not complete all their classes because they have work or other emergencies and they miss a few classes, or they lose steam eventually after their initial excitement. Okay, that's just human nature. So let me ask you, how many people make New Year's resolutions to go to the gym, but then eventually give up? Okay, statistics show that within a few months, 80 to 90% give up the resolution they made in January. Why is it so? It's human nature, right? We get excited initially, but eventually stuff happens in life, things we never expected, things we didn't foresee, that make us lose our enthusiasm and motivation. Ultimately, those who miss face-to-face classes for whatever reasons, okay, there's no shortage of reasons, end up wasting a lot of money due to the uncompleted classes. So face-to-face classes are very expensive in Singapore because most class fees go to classroom rental, not to the teacher, not to the school, just to pay for the classroom rental. Why? Because rental in Singapore is very expensive. So actually, even though you think that, face-to-face class is going to help me, it's going to force me to and discipline me to study, actually you're paying a lot for just someone to babysit you, in a sense, to force you to study, because rental is very high. For online classes, you never miss a class as it's all online and recorded and available. So whatever problems you have, doesn't matter. You can still, you won't miss any class because it's all recorded, it's all online. You can go through the classes anytime, can even start earlier and not have to wait for the face-to-face class to start. You can replay it over and over again. If you don't understand anything, if you want to move faster, you can do so without waiting for the face-to-face class to start. Most importantly, if you think that you need face-to-face classes in order to help you discipline or force yourself to study, then you've already started with the wrong mindset and you've already lost more than half the battle. Okay? You probably don't have enough internal motivation and discipline to work hard enough to pass your IELTS exam. In order to successfully pass IELTS, okay, you would need to do a lot of homework by yourself and improve. So you can't have the mentality that I'm just going to study in class, because in class, teachers there, I'm in the classroom, I'm forced to do my work. You cannot just rely on classes and you cannot just depend on classes. You have to do a lot of homework if you're serious about passing, right? You need to find your own motivation to do all this additional homework. The teacher's not going to go home to your home and force you to do your homework. So you can't rely on attending face-to-face class to find the motivation and discipline to study. If you rely on that kind of forced motivation, then when the going gets tough, you will quit and you won't have the internal strength to win the battle. Okay, I'm telling you, passing your IELTS exam is not easy, and that's why 60 to 80% of students actually fail on their first attempt, and many other people will fail in subsequent attempts, the second, third, fourth, fifth attempt. Why? Because they treat it too lightly, they don't have that motivation, they just want to attend classes and they think attending classes where they're forced to study, that's enough, they don't have to do any other work. No, that's not right. Okay. Most people who think that face-to-face classes are better because they're forced to study and learn in a physical classroom, in the end don't do well, because for all types of classes, not just for IELTS, you need to discipline yourself to do your homework outside of class to succeed too. Okay, so do not think that attending a face-to-face class is better as you'll be more disciplined. No, you'll only be disciplined during that face-to-face class, and if you don't have the discipline to do your homework and to do all the work that's necessary, I always tell my class, when I was teaching face-to-face classes, I always tell students that yes, you learn a lot from my classes, but guess what? Most of your learning and most of your improvement is going to be outside of class in the homework I set for you. It's going to be based on what I taught you in class, but you're going to do additional work, okay? If they want to pass. That's why I have many students who pass the IELTS exam after coming to my classes, because I push them a lot. They do not just attend my classes. That's previously. Now, of course, I don't have any face-to-face classes. I focus on online classes. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. Okay, in your opinion, what things should I consider when choosing which IELTS class is best for me? So here are about 9 things that you should consider, right? Firstly, the experience of the teacher. Is a teacher an IELTS specialist? Does he or she specialize in teaching IELTS, or a generalist, meaning that he or she teaches all types of English? Of course, you want a specialist. Are the years of experience teaching IELTS? Is a teacher just a hired teacher with no incentive to create better teaching materials? Number 2, you have to understand the teaching and the materials itself. That's very important. LCD meaning lowest common denominator, or DD meaning dumb down. Now, I explain all this in my IELTS Masterclass. So if you are keen, some of these terms maybe you don't really understand. I'm just going to explain a bit of it here, but I explain of it more in the IELTS Masterclass that I do an introduction to IELTS preparation. So try and attend that and watch the video if you are not if you're able to and you don't really understand some of these terms. Okay, so LCD meaning teaching to the lowest common denominator. A lot of teaching and a lot of classes do that because they want to teach such that the weaker students and are able to understand. Now, if you cater your teaching to the lowest common denominator, the weaker students, what's going to happen is that it will not be very challenging for many students, and especially the stronger ones. Okay, so I don't do that. I don't cater to the weaker students. Many classes do, and many textbooks especially do, because of course textbooks, they're all about sales. So if you have a textbook which is too difficult and too challenging, then some students won't be able to buy it and will find it too difficult. Then of course you get less sales, right? So what you want to do is that you want to make it such that everybody would be okay with the materials. I don't do that because I know how difficult it is for students to pass the IELTS exam. And therefore, I challenge my students. My materials that I'm teaching, they're actually very challenging and very difficult in a sense. I wouldn't say too difficult because that's the reason why I've come, started to teach online, because the recordings can be played over and over again, and that will help people to absorb the materials much better. But they are challenging, definitely. Okay, that's how I've gotten so many students to pass the IELTS exam. You're not going to get teach in a very simple way and then get students to pass the IELTS exam still. Okay, that's not going to happen. Number 2 here under teaching and materials is smart work strategies versus hard work. Again, this is something I touch a lot on. Basically, I use certain strategies that it's very difficult to explain, but I don't believe in just getting students to work hard. Definitely that's necessary, but a lot of my teachings and my materials, for example, all this, all right, my templates, these are all getting students to work smart, and it will help them to improve in their language, their vocabulary, their grammar, and achieve their results in a faster time with less effort put in, but specifically for the IELTS exam. All right, so are the materials just getting you to work hard generally, or do they have materials that's catered specifically using certain creative strategies like templates? Okay, my classes are well known for the IELTS essay templates, and that's why so many of my students have passed the writing, because that's a creative strategy, a creative way of helping students to really improve their writing. Okay, so again, are the materials just based on general guidelines, or there has really more specific details to them? A lot of materials are very general in nature. Most of my materials contains a lot of specific details, which is in line with what I believe. I don't believe in just giving general guidelines and general materials, because that's not going to help students. Students want more specific help. They don't just want general guidelines, they want more detailed materials. So my materials are very detailed and very unique. Another term here, DFY, meaning done for you, which means I've done all the rather than just teaching you the strategy, I have actually done it for you. Again, all this is explained very clearly in the IELTS Masterclass, which is free. If you just ask me about it, and I will tell you how you can actually attend it. My materials are unique. Again, level 3, level 4, level 5 essay templates. So materials are very important because most of the time, the teacher is not going to be in front of the student unless you get you pay a lot of money for a one-to-one teacher, right? You're going to pay a lot of money for that. So if the teacher is not going to be there teaching the student every single moment, your materials have to be doing the work, right, of actually helping them. So that's why I put a lot of effort, a lot of thinking into the materials that I create. So teaching and materials are very important. Number 3, there's the class just give a lot of mock tests to students. Many schools do a lot of mock tests during class time. That's pretty much the wrong way to improve, and I touch on this in my IELTS Masterclass. And it's one way why many people fail, because they just do mock tests over and over again. That's not the way to improve. Okay, so it's a waste of time and money if it's done in class. So don't go to a class whereby you do a lot of mock tests during class. Actually, many classes do a lot of mock tests because students want to do mock tests in class. Again, because they have this mentality that I'm going to class to force myself and discipline myself, therefore I want to do mock tests in class. No, you can do a mock test at home. Why do you want to go to a class and waste your money and waste your time, right? Just to have a babysitter teacher in class overlooking your 2-3 hours doing the mock test. No, you can do that at home. So I don't spend my even during when I was teaching face-to-face, I don't teach face-to-face classes anymore, but when I was doing so, I don't do mock tests. I tell students to go home to do their mock tests because there's so much to teach. But to be honest, many classes do a lot of mock tests because students want that. Students want the wrong thing. You don't give students what they want, because if they want the wrong thing, that's not going to help them improve and pass the IELTS exam. Don't just cater to what they want. I don't do that, right? So many students ask me, do I do a lot of mock tests when I was teaching face-to-face? I said, no, I don't. I give you, go back and do it yourself. I'm in class teaching you good stuff, using good materials. I'm not just getting you to go through a mock test. And I explained in my masterclass why mock tests are not the way to go. If you do mock tests over and over again, you are just going to know what to expect in the exam. You're just going to be able to measure your score. You are not going to improve your level. That's not the purpose of doing mock tests, right? There's your class. There's the class give a lot of homework to push students and expect the homework to be as important to students' improvement as the face-to-face teaching. Very important. I've always, even when I was teaching face-to-face, I've always given a lot of homework to my students. And I've always told them the homework that you're doing probably is just as important, if not more important, than what you learn in class. Of course, what you learn in class is important, but what you do at home, your homework is going to be is built on what you've learned in class, but you have to do your homework because that's where you're going to improve a lot also. All right, so many schools just get you to do the homework in class, especially when students don't do their homework. The teacher say, okay, I'll give you 20-30 minutes to do your homework. Look, if you don't do your homework at home, then you are really not in the right mindset to improve and to pass your IELTS exam, right? So it's a waste of money if you do your homework in class. And it's also a waste of money if you don't do your homework, because that's where your improvement is going to be. A lot of your improvement is going to take place at home. Do they have teachings on grammar and vocabulary? Very important. Many classes neglect this. And I focus a lot on this. In fact, 10-20 hours of my teaching, 10 plus hours of my online video teachings are based on grammar and vocabulary. Why? Because that's one of the major reasons why students don't get 7 for both writing and speaking, especially for writing, because students make too many grammar and vocabulary mistakes. So this is very important, right? The 6th thing to consider is the school, the IELTS class recommended by agents, migration agents, ex-students, IDP, etc. IDP is a co-owner of IELTS along with University of Cambridge and British Council. So 3 organizations co-own the IELTS organization: IDP Australia, British Council, and University of Cambridge, right? So I've taught preparation for IDP, Singapore, also for agencies. My classes and my teachings are recommended. This is a Facebook page. Somebody actually sent this to me. Of course, I don't understand what's being written. I think this is in the I think Myanmar language. But so this is recommended. One of my students obviously came to my class and recommended to this large public group, almost 150k Facebook group for basically immigration and IELTS. I've been recommended by many agencies, immigration agencies in Singapore too, right? So as you read here, just to update you, we've been sending your materials and recommending you to our clients in the past 2 years. Okay, my migration agent in KL asked for your contacts. One of his clients is from JB, wants some help in IELTS. I'd like to introduce you to Jonathan Koh of IELTS University. He will be of great help to you as per feedback from previous clients who attended his course, including myself. Now, this person also attended. He works for this immigration consultant company, and he also attended my classes just to check it out, right? I previously given your contact to 7 prospective and or existing clients. I'll continue to refer individuals who require IELTS coaching. Now, you must understand something. You must understand how immigration consultants and agencies work. They only recommend their clients to the best IELTS class. Why? Because their agency's fees, which is not cheap, thousands of dollars, depend on their clients passing IELTS. That's the most difficult barrier for their clients, passing the IELTS. And if their clients do not pass the IELTS exam, they don't go further in the process, they lose thousands of dollars, right? So it's actually important for agents to send their clients to an IELTS class that will help their clients pass the IELTS so that they will get more money. They will get more fees as the clients progress in their immigration process. Without passing IELTS, the immigration process cannot continue and they won't get their fees. So many immigration agencies recommend me because they see how I've helped their clients in the past to pass their IELTS, okay, some of whom failed many times before attending my IELTS class. And by the way, I do not give them referral fees. And they still recommend me. Why? Because they know that whatever referral fees they would get from other classes is small compared to the fact that if I were able to help their clients pass IELTS, then they'll get thousands of dollars more from their clients because their clients can go through the process. So also, of course, my students recommend my class, those who have passed, those who have not passed also. Now, I have 450 plus students who have passed their IELTS exam after coming to my class, and many students don't pass too. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody who comes to my class will pass their IELTS exam. Every student is in a different situation. Every student puts in different amounts of hard work, so not everybody passes, and not everybody who comes to my class will actually work hard and will actually pass the IELTS exam. So please don't get me wrong. Coming to my class does not mean that you are definitely going to pass your IELTS exam. Another thing to consider is how much personal attention and support you get. So perhaps the number one reason why people think face-to-face classes are better is actually a misconception, right? They think that face-to-face classes, you get a lot of personal attention and support. But even in the face-to-face class, teachers can't give personal attention to every student. And actually, I've taught for so many years and most students are too shy to speak up, especially the weaker ones. And because English is their second language, they are very shy and they don't want to speak up, right? So every time I have a lot of problems getting students to speak up because I start to realize, okay, because English is their second language, right? So the support, you don't have to come to a face-to-face class to get support, right? I give, during my face-to-face class and even for my online classes, I've always given my WhatsApp number. You can always ask me questions, fortnightly or weekly Zoom calls. You can always ask me questions. So don't worry. The support you are going to get in my online classes is going to be so much better than if you were to just go to face-to-face class, because nobody asks questions during the face-to-face class. So even when I was teaching face-to-face classes, even after my students finished their face-to-face class, they still have my number. I say, please ask me, please WhatsApp me if you have any questions. Okay, it's not just during the class itself that they are able to ask me. And the cost, number 8, the cost of my class, face-to-face class was $600. Now the normal cost of my online class is $400. If this is still during the launch period, as of this recording, this is still during the launch period, but I'm not sure if it's still going to be during the launch period. But there's a discount during the launch period of 250 Singapore dollars only, rather than 400. If it's outside the launch period, then it's normally $400. Now, if it's $250 divided by 35 hours, that's about $7 per hour. That's very, very, very cheap. Okay, and please note that I've not told you about my online IELTS classes here in this video, but please go and ask me for another video, or I probably give you a link to another video also, where I talk to you about my IELTS classes, and also you're able to attend my or watch the video of my IELTS masterclass for free, where I tell you more about my IELTS classes if you're interested, right? So, but just to let you know, if it's $250 during the launch period, divide by 35 hours, and of course there's going to be more than 35 hours, because in my online IELTS classes, I also have Zoom, regular Zoom, which will be recorded, and also new materials I'm adding, so it's actually more than 35 hours, right? But if you just want to talk about 35 hours, that's $7 per hour. 250 divided by 35, around 7. So I asked someone to go and do some research about all the different IELTS classes that you can find in Singapore. So these are the major classes. If you want to, I'm not going to put the names here, but just to show you the costs, all right? So the most expensive is really $50 per hour, $2,000, $800. And most of the other classes are actually in this price range of $25 to $30 an hour, all right? Again, mine is $7 per hour. And then there is a very cheap class to only $12 per hour, but of course, that's because you have to attend 700 plus hours. You have to pay about $8,000 plus. So that's how that's why it's so cheap. So my classes, 35 hours of teaching, that's about $7 per hour of teaching. Now, for me, when I say 35 hours of video teaching, that's me teaching every moment for 35 hours, right? That would probably be equivalent of 70 to 80 hours or more of class time. Because if you go to a class, if you go to a 2 hours class, the teacher's not going to be teaching for 1 hour, for 2 hours. The teacher's probably going to be teaching for 1 hour, and then you have a break for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then you will be given 10, 20, 30 minutes each time to do your exercise activities. So actual teaching is probably half the time. But when I say 35 hours, so it's really equivalent to, you know, every single moment is taught. If I were to have all these materials in my face-to-face class, it will probably be 70 hours long of face-to-face classes, because of the rest of the time being students doing their work and break time. So anyway, this is the cost. You can compare the cost, not just the cost in total is the cheapest, but also the cost per hour is very much cheaper than what others offer. Right. So these are the 8 things to consider. Experience of teacher, teaching and materials. Does the class give only mock tests, which is not the right way to prepare? Do they give a lot of homework to push students? Do they have teachings on grammar and vocabulary, which is one of the main reasons why students don't pass the IELTS exam, because their grammar and vocabulary is below the level that's required? Are they recommended by agents and ex-students and IDP, etc.? How much personal attention and support do you get? Do you get the teacher's WhatsApp number, etc., etc.? Can you get their support anytime you want, even after your classes? The cost of the class, of course, is important, but there's one factor more important than cost or any of these 7 other factors, and that is the most important thing to consider. And I believe that you will also agree with me, all right? Because teachers should be in the business of helping students pass their IELTS exam, is the results of their students. That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter how cheap or expensive. Doesn't matter everything else, the materials, the teachers, etc. Because everything, it's easy to find out what kind of class you're getting. Just look at the results of the students. That's the number one thing, right? So go and compare the results of whatever classes you're thinking about. Compare the results to the results of my students in the past. You can go to this webpage, and you can also go to this webpage, right? So please make sure you don't do this. Don't just take the exam and fail over and over again. These are WhatsApp to me almost every week of students failing over and over again. Why? Because they don't prepare hard enough. They prepare wrongly. They don't even care about preparing. They underestimate the difficulty of the IELTS exam. All right. So these are some of my students here who have passed. This student failed writing, because writing is the most difficult component, 15 times. Okay. Attended 3 other workshops and classes over 2-year period. I believe it's a 2-year period. Yep. Passed everything else, listening, reading, speaking, but writing failed 15 times. Remember, if you fail one of the component, you got to take the whole thing over and over again. always got 6.5 for writing. Eventually found out about me, my classes, used my templates, came to attend my classes, and after attending the classes, finally got 7. Okay, but wasted over $5,000 before that. This student, not my student actually, this person's from overseas, took the exam for 20 times, always got 5.5, 17, asked whether I can help him. Right? Please don't be like that, because there are many people who fail over and over again. That's why I said 60 to 80% of students, people who take the IELTS exam, actually fail on their first try and their first attempt. And not just their first attempt, the second and third and fourth, many fail over many attempts. Alright, don't be like that. Prepare properly, choose the right class, choose the right course. If you're interested to find out more about my IELTS classes, my online IELTS classes, just let me know. Here are 2 other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these 2 videos. Okay, why is your IELTS class so cheap? So this is kind of a funny question that I do get people who ask me this question a number of times. So I find this question hilarious, okay, that people complain and question why it's so cheap. So I get this question for 2 types of people. From those who haven't taken my classes but are thinking of taking my classes. Basically, they say, Jonathan, how come you provide so many hours of teaching, give all your unique and detailed materials, including your essay templates, which can't be found elsewhere, and your students have had so much success, and yet you still charge so little? What's the deal? Are there any strings attached? Do I have to pay more for additional materials or something? Is this a scam? Okay, I know there are lots of scams going on around, but obviously check my history, check my website, check the WhatsApp messages, etc., etc. Okay, this is not a scam. I'll get to why I offer my classes at such a low price. But the second type of people who ask this question, from those who have already taken my class, a lot of my students say, Jonathan, your class is extremely comprehensive and detailed. I learned so much. Your materials are excellent, blah, blah, blah. You should really think of increasing your class fees because it's worth much more than how much you're charging and of much better value than any other IELTS class out there. Right? So basically people are just saying that it's worth much more. And even some of my students say I should increase my price. Not just some, but actually many have come up to me say that because people actually think it's not a good course as it's so cheap. So it will give people the idea that it's not worth much because the price is so low. So that people have actually come up to tell me that, right? So now, let me explain why I keep the price so low, even though I know I can charge so much more. Okay, it's just plain economics. I charge a low price, so more people will be able to afford the price. And as a result, more people will purchase the class, okay? Even though each person pays less, because more people end up purchasing the online class and becoming my student, that makes up for the lower cost for each student. So in the end, I get to help more people pass the IELTS exam. It's a win-win situation for both me and the student. But I want to remind you, once again, if you've attended my IELTS Masterclass or not, I want to remind you that cost is not everything. Don't determine whether you take an IELTS class based on its costs. The quality of the class is not reflected in its price tag. A cheap class doesn't mean it's of low quality, nor does it mean you should buy it because it's cheap. An expensive class doesn't mean it's of high quality, nor does it mean you shouldn't buy it because it's expensive. The most important thing is not the cost, but the quality and the results of the class. Alright, so I show this in my IELTS Masterclass. I got someone to go and find out the cost of other IELTS classes and schools in Singapore. Mine is definitely the cheapest. 250 compared to all of this. But if you talk about it in terms of cost per hour of teaching, it's only $7, right? But like I said, cost is not the only factor, and you should not only think about cost. In the end, the most important factor that will tell you whether the class is good is the results. So look at the results, go through these two web pages, see what other students have mentioned about the classes. There are hundreds, well, there's 450 WhatsApp messages here and dozens over here on this web page. Go and read what they say about the class. And all these students have passed my classes. Now, I've got many students, of course, and I'll be upfront with you, many students who have not passed the IELTS exam also. The difference between those who pass and those who don't pass, many factors involved. But one factor, of course, is you have to work hard. Even though I teach you how to work smart in my classes, you have to work hard. You have to put in the hard work. If you think that you can just, spend 5 hours or 10 hours on my classes, on the videos, on the materials, you're not going to pass. Okay, that's not enough. So go and read about what these students have said. That's the most important thing. It's really not about cost. Another class can come along, providing their class at much cheaper than mine. I mean, mine's probably the cheapest already, but it doesn't matter. It's not about cost. It's about results. It's about materials. It's about the quality of class that you're getting ultimately. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. Why do so many people fail their IELTS exam? Good question, because an estimated 60 to 80% of students fail their IELTS exam on their first try, and many fail it in subsequent tries too, having failed it 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 times. Okay, so this is something I get every week pretty much from students all over the world WhatsApping me, saying that they failed the exam many times, asking me for help whether I can help them. Now, so why do they fail? Because they prepare wrongly. Okay, they think that taking IELTS practice or mock test will prepare me for the IELTS exam. When I say taking IELTS practice mock test, I mean taking the exam, taking the practice test at home under exam conditions, keeping to the time limit, not using any outside materials, just like you would do in the actual exam. So they just do mock tests after mock test. They take the mock test under exam conditions, they check the answers, and then they repeat the process over and over again, and they go through all the different mock test, practice tests they can find. And then when they feel prepared, they take the exam finally. The expectation is that as they take the mock test over and over again, many different mock tests, that the more practice mock tests they take, the higher their score is going to be. But the reality is that their score does not improve by much at all. Why? If you go and find the definition of a test, of course, we all know what a test is. It is, questions, exercises, practical activities to measure someone's skill, ability, or knowledge. It's a way to measure your level, not to improve. You don't take tests to improve. You take tests to measure. So why do you take mock tests? If you think that taking more and more mock tests will help you to improve, you're wrong. Now, what will taking practice or mock tests help you with? It will help you with measuring your English IELTS level, and it'll help you to be familiar with the IELTS exam format, the timing system, the question type, so on and so forth. So you know what to expect in the actual exam. This is very important. You don't want to take the exam without having first done a few mock tests at home to know what you're going to expect. If you don't know what to expect, then you just, for the first time, you just go to the exam room and take the test, you'll be shocked. Okay, you don't know the format, you're not familiar with the timing system, so on and so forth. That's not good. So you take mock tests to measure your level and to be familiar with what to expect with the format, so on and so forth. But it doesn't help you. Taking mock tests will not help you to improve your English level or IELTS level by much, and it doesn't help you to get the score you need. Why? Because when you take a mock test at home, there's a time limit. You're following the time limit of the exam. For example, reading, you're giving yourself 60 minutes only. For listening, you're playing the recording only once. This is what will happen in the exam. For writing, you give yourself 1 hour for 2 tasks. And you don't use any outside materials, right? When you're taking the mock test at home. Because in the exam, you can't use any outside materials. You can't use the internet. You can't use the dictionary or books. You can't bring books into the exam room. So you're going to use the same simulate the kind of experience that you have in an exam but doing it at home. So if it's just you and your test materials without anything or anyone to help you improve, then how are you going to improve? When you're taking a mock test at home, there's nothing that's going to help you improve. You got to imagine your mind is like a glass, all right? And you are pouring certain things, skills, grammar, vocabulary, you're improving, you're putting things into your mind, you're changing your mind, you're improving in certain areas. Something needs to be added to you, your mind, for you to improve. All these are not automatically added to you and your mind when you take mock tests. No. So improvement takes a lot of time and requires outside materials. So let me be clear, okay? I said that taking IELTS practice mock tests does not help a person improve their IELTS score by much at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do IELTS mock tests before your exam. Of course you should. Like I said, you still want to do some of them so you know what to expect. You know the test format, so on and so forth. You know what to expect in the actual exam. Most people spend most of their preparation time doing mock tests, like 80% of their preparation time. That's too much. That's too large a percentage of your overall preparation time. All right? So yes, you should do mock tests, just do some, but don't spend 80% of your preparation time doing mock tests. That's not what you should be doing. Okay, you should spend only about 20% maximum doing mock tests, as the rest of your preparation time, the rest of the time, 80% should be spent on improving and preparing in other ways. So the way to prepare, all right, properly for your IELTS exam or any language exam for that matter, is through addressing 3 important areas: test format, test strategies, and language improvement. So test format is about familiarity with the IELTS exam format, timing system, question types, and this is where doing mock tests will help you with being familiar with the test format. All right. Then the second thing is test strategies. Know how to address all the different types of test questions. Example, how to structure an essay, how to answer the difficult reading question types, how to avoid being tricked into giving the wrong answers for reading and listening. Being familiar with the IELTS test format does not mean you know the test strategies to answer the questions. All right. Many IELTS students and even IELTS classes stop at this. They just focus on test format and test strategies. But that's not good enough for the majority of students. I say for the majority because every student is different. If you're a good native English speaker, that may be good enough. You just need to work on your test format and your test strategies. You don't have to work on the third thing I'm going to talk about, which is a language improvement, because your language is already good. Your grammar, your vocabulary is already good. But the problem is that most students who are taking the IELTS exam are not native English speakers. That's why they take the IELTS exam. So knowing test strategies has its limits. There's no point if you work on your test strategies, but your language, your grammar, vocabulary isn't good enough. You may know the strategy to answer a writing or speaking question, but you make too many grammatical or vocabulary mistakes, and that lowers your writing or your speaking score. You may know the strategy to answer a reading or listening question, but you don't understand what a certain word means. That's your weak vocabulary. Or you miss certain grammatical clues that would have helped you get the correct answer quickly. All this could lower your reading, your listening score, right? So grammar and vocabulary is important. So the third thing is language improvement, which here I'm talking really about grammar and vocabulary. Grammar and vocabulary are both extremely important for writing and speaking, as both are part of the criteria used to evaluate your writing and speech. And also, having good grammar and vocabulary also helps you in getting the correct answers for reading and listening. So improving your grammar and vocabulary is definitely hard work. It's a slow, hard, and long slog. Slog meaning it's difficult, it's boring, it takes time. However, working on your grammar and vocabulary has long-term benefits, okay? Learning the test format and test strategies will only help you in that particular test, and it's generally quite short-term. Because you're only learning the test format and test strategy for the test. But language, if you improve your language generally, grammar and vocabulary, the improvement will result in you having better English overall, long-term. Beyond helping you with your IELTS score, it also helps you in your everyday life and your work and social situations. However, language improvement for most IELTS students is extremely difficult because of what we call fossilization. This is a technical term used in language teaching, language studies, which means the process of an error or mistake becoming a habit so that a student often makes it and finds it difficult to change. So grammatical and vocabulary mistakes become a habit such that it's difficult to change. Now, the reason for this is that when your English is at a high enough level, people don't correct your mistakes as they understand what you're trying to say, even though you make mistakes. So most of my students are at least at a level of, close to 6, and they can communicate well. They make a lot of mistakes, but communicating well doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, right? You can communicate and people can understand you, and you even if you make mistakes. So now what happens is that when people understand you when you make mistakes, they are not going to question you. They are not going to tell you your mistakes because they understand you. They understand what you're trying to say. So they just continue talking to you as per normal. Okay, nobody corrects people's mistakes. And so what happens is that you become less aware of when you're making mistakes because nobody corrects you. And your mistakes become a habit because you don't change them, because you don't know when you make a mistake. So it becomes a habit and becomes difficult to change. Now that is a challenge that most students will face. Right? So let me just recap. Proper IELTS preparation includes doing tests, understanding a test format, test strategies, and language improvement. Most students focus on this, like 80% of the time is preparation time just focus on test format. That's not very good. Okay, you should also work on test strategies. Most people neglect this, but most people really neglect this, which is language improvement, because it's so difficult. People don't like to improve that. But that is going to be the difference between, for many of you, passing your IELTS exam and not passing it. Because that's why many students fail, not just the first time, but over and over again. Because if you never improve your language, your grammar, vocabulary, your writing, your speaking score is going to stay at the same level, and also your reading and listening, because grammar and vocabulary also helps in your reading and listening, right? So the reason why students fail over and over again many times is that they don't work on improving their grammar and vocabulary. If they fail one time, what do they do? Oh, let me just do more mock tests. You're not improving, right? You're not improving your language, and doing mock tests doesn't really help you improve by much. So the reason why 60 to 80% of people fail their IELTS exam on their first attempt and subsequently over and over again is that most people prepare mainly by doing mock tests, which helps them in understanding the test format mainly, and which doesn't help them improve. If you want to improve your IELTS score, you need to work on both test strategies and language improvement, especially the latter, language improvement, which is the most difficult area to improve in. So I have this table, the ideal percentage of time you should spend across different areas in your IELTS preparation. Most people will spend this this kind of percentage for these 3 different areas when they prepare by themselves. Then most preparation classes have this kind of percentage, and I would say that the ideal percentage is really like this. All right. Of course, every student is different, so there are different ideas for different people. But the fact that a huge majority of people who take the IELTS exam fail on their first attempt, and that many continue to fail over and over again subsequently, should inform us that what's preventing people from passing will be the area that's the most difficult to improve in, which is the area of the language improvement, which is the area of language improvement, right? Therefore, we can conclude that a greater percentage of time ought to be spent on language improvement. Let me go through this a bit. So for self-preparation, most people are just going to do mock tests over and over and over again. Maybe they'll, focus a bit on test strategies by using a book or something like that, right? Now, if you're a good native English speaker, you can get away with this. This kind of preparation is okay. You don't have to improve your language much because your English is already very good. The problem is that most people who use this kind of percentage, most people are non-native English speakers, and that's wrong. All right, you need to really focus on language improvement here. Most preparation classes, at least it's better than the self-preparation kind of percentage, because they do fewer mock tests, but they focus a bit more on test strategies. However, they don't focus much on language improvement. Why? Because nobody likes to teach grammar and vocabulary. Trust me, teachers don't like to teach that, and students don't like to learn, right? It's easier to focus on the first two. Ideal preparation, in my opinion, for most students, is that you should really be focusing most of your time on improving the language. Okay? Your language, your grammar, your vocabulary. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. Is taking your online class enough to pass IELTS, and can you guarantee that I will pass? Okay, no guarantees up front. No teacher or school can guarantee that you'll pass after attending their classes. Okay, if anyone does so, please run away. They're not telling you the truth, and I think you should be smart enough to know this. I can't promise you get any particular score, and in fact, even though I have 450 plus IELTS passes, I have never said, and I will never say, that everybody who comes to my class passes. Okay, everybody's at a different situation in their life, different amounts of hard work put in by students. Not everybody works hard, not everybody completes the class. And I can tell you, for many people, they start very enthusiastically, and then eventually, life gets in the way. They got problems here, they got change of plans, their work, etc., etc. So those who pass put in a lot of hard work, right? There's no guarantee that you'll pass. So you need to put in the hard work, but my class also uses smart work strategies and materials to help you improve faster. So I do focus on hard work, but also smart work. It is important to use certain strategies to help you to improve quicker than normal, right, for the IELTS exam. So even though there are no guarantees, I do believe with all my heart that if you go through everything in this online class, the essay templates, the strategies to improve your listening, reading, writing, speaking, the smart work materials, the done for you materials, all these are things that I teach in my, and I talk about in my IELTS Masterclass. So let me know if you want a free access to it, the link to the video. And you do work hard, you still need to work hard, of course. You will stand a better chance of getting your target IELTS score than if you were to attend any other class out there, whether it's face-to-face or online. And that's what I truly believe, because I believe my materials and the strategies I teach you, the templates, etc., are that good. I do believe that I provide one of the best, if not the best, IELTS preparation out there. That doesn't mean you don't have to work hard. That doesn't mean there are guarantees. There are definitely no guarantees, right? Ultimately, I can't guarantee that you will pass. I can't guarantee you get 6 or 7 or whatever it may be. I can only show you the experience of my students, and then you have to decide for yourself if you want to take my online IELTS classes. So please go through these web pages to find out a bit more about what students have said about my IELTS classes. That's the best I can do for you. Again, if anybody, any class tells you that you are guaranteed that you will pass your IELTS exam, please don't believe them, because that's not true. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. What's the best time to start your online class, now or in a few months' time? Okay, there's this Chinese proverb says that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So I'm going to say the best time to start your IELTS preparation was last week. The second best time is really now. Right? Why do people start their preparation so late? Okay, firstly, they underestimate the difficulty of the IELTS exam. They don't think it's hard, right? And let me just tell you up front, 60 to 80% of people who take the IELTS exam fail the first time they take it, and many fail in subsequent attempts, not just 1 or 2 more attempts, but many people take the exam 4, 5, 10 times and don't even pass. Okay, so people tend to think that they are better than they actually are. Don't underestimate the difficulty of the IELTS exam. Don't overestimate your ability. That's why you should start as soon as you can. Number 2, life gets in the way. We all have busy lives. We have emergencies. We have work. We have family. Things happen, and it's just understandable that when things happen, you just delay starting your IELTS preparation. And in the end, you will pay for it if you don't have enough time to get the score that you want. All right. Results of starting preparation too late is number 1, you take it many times before passing, you waste a lot of money. You shouldn't really take it more than once or twice. The only reason why you take it so many times is because you prepare too late and you take the exam too early. Don't take the exam too early, right? Make sure you're prepared. Spend time properly preparing. You can't pass before the deadline. Some people can't pass before the deadline because they start too late. They can't pass before the deadline, and guess what? There's a deadline to study or to immigrate, and then they are unable to immigrate or study overseas. They become discouraged after many failures, and end up giving up their dreams of immigration and studying overseas. So there's that discouragement. Those people who take it too many times will definitely be discouraged. There's no doubt. That's why don't take it until you are ready, that you have prepared. When you're prepared properly, then take it. If not, then you're just wasting your time and money. And money wasted can be earned back. Time wasted cannot be earned back. Discouragement and the effect it has on your well-being and your emotional health, it's very difficult to change that. Okay, so don't be unprepared when you take the exam and then you start failing over and over again. Make sure you prepare properly. So start your IELTS preparation as soon as you can. There will never be a more perfect time than now. Life always gets in the way and works to delay your start. Now, if you say, but my deadline to get my IELTS score is around the corner, is very near, well, if you have a deadline that's coming, you need to quickly prepare and start immediately. Okay, that's why you can do so in my online class. You don't have, if you attend face-to-face class, you got to wait for it to start in a few weeks' time or whatever it may be. But the beauty of an online class is they can start now. You can take the exam now. Not take the exam now, but you can start now. Take the exam when you're ready, right? But start immediately. Prepare immediately. If the deadline to get your results around the corner, please start as soon as possible. Okay, if you can't delay the deadline, then that's out of your control. If you can delay the deadline, then I always tell students, don't book your exam too early, because most students are going to fail because they're not prepared. They always underestimate the difficulty of the IELTS exam. So, but if you can't delay the deadline, if it's out of your control, then you just have to do your best. So that's why I always tell students, please prepare as early as you can. Some people have no choice. They have a deadline. For most people, they do have a choice. And if you have a choice, don't go and wait until the deadline is around the corner, then start preparing. No, start as soon as you can. All right. Here are 2 other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these 2 videos. Why do you have so many testimonials on IELTS writing? Do you teach only writing? I teach all 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking. Writing happens to be the most difficult component for most students, as it's a skill that is used least by people, right? Not many people write these days, whereas they speak, they listen, they read. So almost every student will struggle with IELTS writing because it is the most difficult component. That's why I spend a lot of time creating very good writing materials, essay templates, smart work strategies, done for you materials, grammar, vocabulary, so on and so forth. All right, it is very necessary for you to do well in your writing. I focus on writing just because most students come to me for writing, not just for writing, but when you start failing and you start realizing that you fail your IELTS mainly because of your writing is always the lowest score, then you will you're looking for places that can help you in your writing, and that's why it's just a market that there's a market demand for really good writing teachings. But I teach everything. My online IELTS classes focus on everything, right? So, however, I spend time creating and improving my materials for all 4 skills, not just writing. I have materials and I teach all 4 skills. All my students have improved in all 4 areas. So writing is the most difficult component, right? As you can see here, right, this person got 7, whereas before he got 6. He improved to 7. He says that honestly started using the templates and strategies in the 2nd attempt only. Then after that he passed. I have put them to the best use in the last couple of months. I can see a change in my score. And as you can read here, for most of my friends, scoring 7.0 in writing is near to impossible. Many students struggle with writing. Getting 7.0. 7.0 is generally the score you need for writing for most students. It is a very challenging kind of score for writing because many students make a lot of mistakes. Grammar mistakes and vocabulary mistakes. That's why I give them templates. It is a smart way to really improve their grammar and vocabulary for the writing. This student failed 15 times, just the writing. Everything else passed. Speaking, reading, listening got 7, but writing always got 6. Failed 15 times. Okay, so that's how difficult it can be for students to pass the writing. Now, failing 15 times means he spent over $5,000 or so. Okay, just wasted, gone down the drain. After 15 times, this student went to 3 other workshops and classes. After failing 15 times, then came to my class, and after I think he only attended my writing classes. At that time, many years ago, I taught 2 writing classes. He attended that, used the templates, and then finally passed on his next attempt. So go to this webpage. You will find testimonials of people who have improved their writing after having failed it at least once, and then they came to my class, and then not just did they improve their writing, but they passed their IELTS and their writing eventually. But please do take note, like I said, my students improve in all 4 components, and I teach all 4 components, right? And for example, this student improved in writing from 6.5 to 7, but then there are students who improve in all different areas also. Here are 2 other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these 2 videos. Okay, I have failed IELTS X times. How can I ensure I pass the next time? Because, I don't want to waste another $250 US, which is the cost of the IELTS exam around the world, the general cost, right? So, number 1, over-prepare rather than under-prepare. what I mean is that don't just prepare just right. Prepare such that you know that you are better and your level is higher than the score that you need. And if you're not sure you're ready to pass, then you're not ready. Okay? If you're kind of like wishing and hoping, you give yourself a 50% chance of passing, then probably you're not ready. Number 2, ensure your mock test result. If you take mock test result, ensure the results are consistently at 0.5 above your target score. That's over preparing. So even if your performance on the actual exam is lower than normal because you don't perform for some reason or another, you didn't get good sleep, you kind of like blanked out during the exam, whatever it may be, you'll still get your target score probably because you have over prepared and you are at a level that's slightly higher than what you are targeting. Number 3, prepare for all 4 components. Don't be complacent and assume that you definitely do well in any one of them and so not study for it. This is something I also see students facing, which is that they think that they are good enough for this or that. I only need to focus on this 1 or 2 components. Actually, when I ask them, why do you say that you only want to focus on this and not the other? They say, I'm good enough in the other. I will ask them, how do you know you are at the level that you need to be for this other component? Then they just say, I just know I'm good enough. And actually, they are not. All right? Because you have to be familiar with what IELTS expects from you. So this is, again, the tendency by students to think that they are better than they actually are and to underestimate the difficulty of the IELTS exam. So prepare for all 4 components, because if you pass 3 of them and you fail 1, you got to take the exam over again. Okay. Number 4, do not just practice mock tests over and over again. Focus on test strategies, but more importantly on language improvement. Mock test doesn't help you to improve and doesn't really help you to prepare. I address this in another FAQ. I address this in my masterclass. Okay, so go and watch the video because it's very important. This is one of the major reasons students fail, because they do mock tests over and over again. That's the only form of preparation, and that's not going to really prepare them for the IELTS exam. Number 5, use smart work strategies, essay templates, as they help to boost your language quickly for exam purposes. Again, this is something I talk about in my IELTS Masterclass. So I give my students essay templates because this is what I call smart work, helping you to improve your grammar and vocabulary in a smart way, much faster than normal. But you have to come up with a strategy to really prepare for that. That's the essay templates. That's what I give my students. All right. And I said get done for DFY means done for you materials if you don't have much time or want better quality templates. Again, this is something I talk about in my IELTS Masterclass, which is free and available. So go and ask me for the link if you want to watch the video. It's a long video, but you're going to learn a lot about preparing for the IELTS exam. Here are 2 other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these 2 videos. Can't I just do self-preparation for IELTS with a cheap IELTS book? Why do I have to attend IELTS classes? Why do I have to pay? So on and so forth. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, yes, you can prepare for yourself, by yourself, but why take the chance of failing and wasting a lot of money and time? Okay, US $250 is a rough estimated price for the IELTS exam in most countries. Yeah, if you want to prepare for IELTS by yourself, go ahead. All right, there are many IELTS books out there, and you can purchase one for a very low cost. The question is that good enough to help you pass IELTS? Okay, I can't give you a definitive answer, For some, it may be good enough, but for most people, it just will not be good enough. Okay, if you're a native English speaker, you may not need to take a course. I mean, you still can. You may need to. But if you're a non-native English speaker and your level and your language is not good enough, then it's more, it's a higher chance that you have to work much harder, obviously. If 60 to 80% of people fail IELTS on their first attempt, and many keep failing IELTS over and over again, and many of these people either just bought a cheap IELTS book or attended classes, then we can conclude that just purchasing a book will definitely not help the large majority of people to pass IELTS. 60 to 80% of people fail IELTS on their first attempt, and these people would have attended classes. Some may have just read a book. Now, if such a large number fail, even if they attend classes, then just trying to prepare with a book is definitely going to make it. It's definitely not going to help you to succeed. Many people have actually asked me if they could purchase all my physical IELTS materials. I have 100 pages to 300 pages of notes, materials, templates, etc. And I told them that I don't sell those materials alone. Okay, I don't sell them because number one, it will give them the wrong idea that you can just read through the materials and understand everything and pass IELTS. It's not about reading the materials, but you have to do your homework. You have to learn certain things. You have to work on certain things. It's not just about reading a book. They wouldn't be able to go through the actual teaching videos because the teaching videos come with all the materials that contributes a great deal to the success of my students. Number three, they wouldn't be doing the additional homework and exercises required to improve. Number four, they wouldn't get the support that will help them understand what's required to pass the IELTS exam. All this is necessary. You can't just read a book. And I don't just, in my classes, you don't just read materials. You go through videos, you do homework, you practice, try to apply, etc. Or everything that's been taught. If it's so easy to pass IELTS by just reading a book or two, then most people wouldn't be failing on their first attempt. And most people wouldn't fail so many times repeatedly. Right? So the right question shouldn't be whether you can prepare by yourself, but rather, what are my chances of passing if I prepare by myself? The chances of passing if you prepare by yourself are not very good. Even if you take a class, 60 to 80% of students still fail, right? So it's not just about taking a class, not just about reading a book, it's about making sure you prepare correctly. So the chances of passing are not very good. And if so, why would you want to take the risk? If you got a lot of money and time, then by all means, just try and take the risk. But why take the chance of failing and wasting a lot of your money, US $250, and also wasting a lot of your time? All right, so think carefully. A book will help you only to be familiar with the format, not to improve in many areas to reach your score. Here are two other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass or /class to see these two videos. Okay, some students have asked me this. Okay, your online class is so cheap that I'm thinking of paying for one of the more expensive 500 to 1,500 Singapore dollars face-to-face class, and also purchasing your online class. What do you think of that, right? So basically, people are saying, okay, since it's so cheap, let me just purchase it also. It's 250 Singapore dollars, not a lot of money, and because I can afford to pay like 1,000, 1,500 for face-to-face class. So let me just go to the face-to-face class and pay for that, and just pay a bit more for your online classes, your 35 hours, 400 pages of materials. I'll focus on my on my face-to-face class, then I'll see what I can do and also learn from this online class. So my priority will be the face-to-face class. I got enough money, I'll also purchase your online class. I'll do both of them. Now, firstly, I know some people think this course is so cheap that there's not much value in it. The truth is that there's a lot of value. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean there's not a lot of value, right? So you will probably have to spend between 40 and 100 hours. Probably more if you want to really improve. If you want to really go through my class. It's not just like 1 or 2 hours additional, or 5 hours or 10 hours, no. Because there are 35 hours plus of video teachings. These are actual teachings I'm talking every moment, so sometimes you have to watch the video more than once to really understand, depending on how good you are, alright? The materials are going to be very challenging, right? And sometimes you need to pause, you need to think through, you need to do some research to try to understand what I'm teaching. So you're going to spend more than 35 hours, even though there are 35 hours of teaching, right? My notes, my materials, my templates, 400 plus pages, it takes a long time to understand them also, because a lot of the templates, for example, they're very helpful, but you need to understand them. You need to work a bit hard to understand them. It will help you in the exam, but you need to put in the hard work before the exam. I give a lot of exercises and activities, so you have to do that. Also, it's going to take a lot of time. So in the end, it could take you up to 100 hours, if not more. And please take note, the homework that I give you, the materials that I give you are not easy. So, because I always challenge. I say here I don't teach to the LCD. LCD means lowest common denominator. I don't teach to the weakest level. I challenge students to rise up and to improve. So you will be challenged. How much time you spend on this online course depends on how hardworking you want to be, whether you want to go through all the teachings or not. Sometimes you may not need to go through this teaching so much. Sometimes you may need to spend more time on that area. Depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are, how in-depth you want to go through the teachings, and what your English level is. So, but I would recommend all my students to put in at least 40 to 100 hours. If not more. Of course, I always want more, right? It's just whether students have the time. There's enough material for that. So it's possible to spend less than 40 hours, or it's possible to spend more than 100 hours also. Take note that in a class, all right, if you have a 2 hours face-to-face class, half of the time is actually teaching, half of the time is break and non-teaching time, like students doing class activities, exercises. So actually, a 2 hours class is only 1 hour of teaching. I have 35 hours of teaching, which means it's probably like, if I were to teach face-to-face, I'll probably have 70 hours of face-to-face classes, right? So there's a lot actually of materials to go through. So this table is a table that I got someone to do, to exploring the different classes offered in Singapore, the cost, the number of hours, and so on and so forth, right? So even if you look at all this 40 hours, 50 hours, 16, 48, my class is 35 plus hours and probably is equivalent, like I said, 35 hours of actual teaching is equivalent in a face-to-face context of about 70 hours. All right? Because if you include all the activities by students, the break and all that. So it is a full course. You're going to spend probably 100 hours, I recommend, at least. It's not something to be treated lightly, that is just an extra like 1-2 hours. No. It is a full course that you are going to learn a lot from, and probably more than most classes out there, right? So you're going to get a lot of value in my online classes. So if you're thinking of taking a face-to-face class and then the online class, I would recommend purchase the online class first, see the value, then you can decide if you still want to attend the other school's face-to-face class. Once you purchase this online class and go through the videos and see the quality of the materials, you will see that there are hundreds of pages of materials. You'll want to spend your time on this class as your first choice, because these materials are very challenging, not second choice, right? And also, you probably won't have additional time to attend a face-to-face class anyway, because there's so many things to learn with my online class. Here are 2 other videos that you may be interested in. One is a free 4-hour IELTS Masterclass workshop, where I'll go through how to prepare for all 4 components of the IELTS exam. I also touch on many other things like how to work smart in your IELTS preparation, and you also get 200 plus pages of handouts and some useful class materials for your IELTS preparation. If you want to access this video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/masterclass. Also, if you're interested to find out more about my online IELTS class, I have a video telling you what to expect from this class, which I think is the cheapest and the best IELTS class you can get in Singapore and even the world. I'll explain everything that is included in this online IELTS class, which costs just 250 Singapore dollars. To watch the video, you can go to www.ieltsuniversity.com/class. So again, ieltsuniversity.com/class